Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we now know our position and we know the next and previous positions for the roads. Now we just need to know the angle we're going at to decide what type of prefab to spawn, and then down over here determine the angle the prefab needs to be rotated at. So that's going to be a bit complicated because I'm bad at math, so this could get exciting. So first things first, we need to determine if there's any way we can actually cheat with this. So let's go ahead and run as is. And let's go ahead and get in here. Oh, argument is out of range. What is this argument out of range exception? At subhex line 55. Line 55. Generate buildings, building seed. Where else are we? Subhex manager, line 229. Okay. So we are on line 229 here of subhex manager, which is here. There we go. So here, next position equals our road index plus 1. If index plus 1 is greater than our road.count, we do have a check for this. So I guess we need to do our road.count minus 1. I guess that'll fix that, theoretically. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay, so we now know if we have 2- or 3-way intersections. We know where our roads are going, but we need to take a quick look at our sub-hexes here. And let's look and see if there's any way we can cheat the math here. So, oh my. There we go. Okay, so our neighbors are elements 3, 2, 1, 9, 52, 51 here. So the question is it the same every time, the same order? So, let's see. This particular one is, the first index is 3. So we go this direction. And then the first index here is 72, which is this one. So we don't go the same direction. We're going to need to do some positional math. Okay. So, with that being the case, we've got our road here, and I would like to... Well, actually, now that I think about it, we need to continue looking at this and looking at how the system is set up, because currently we are in a position where if we go over to our sub-hexes here, you can see that this sub-hex is on road 2. And then road 2 is not here. This is road 0. This is road 1, actually. And then this is on road 1 and road 2. And then this one, actually, if I can click on the actual hex, is on all 3 roads, 0, 1, and 2. So road 2 goes like this, and then here, and then I'm assuming this is road 2? No, that's road 0. That one's road 2. So road 2 goes like this. Okay. So we are now in a position where road 2 then goes here. So it goes here, like that. Okay. So we know that this one here, for example, this tile here, we know needs to be a non-sharp corner, because it's going from this side to this side. But how do we calculate that mathematically? Well, that's a good question. One thing I am noticing here is we are flat-topped hexes. So we know if we're going straight up and down that we are only moving along the y-axis here. See, 0.3, and then we move, if we go to global, actually we're moving on the y-axis here. Technically the z-axis as well, because this is in local. But we know that if we are in global, then it's just y-axis because it's pure vertical. If it's straight up and down. If it's not pure vertical, like if the x position of the next point is not the same, then we know it's not one of these 2 hexes. So, that being said, I think what we need to do is we need to do up here, well, actually, when we're iterating through. So when we are iterating through right here, we know our next position, we know our previous position. However, these are currently in sub-hexes. I think that's fine. So, if the x position of both previous and next positions are equal to our x, or rather y position. Yeah, I'm right, x position, then we know it's a straight road piece. Okay, there we go. So, we then need to say if previous position dot x equals, and this should be, let's see, what are we calling this? This is subhex is I. Subhex is I dot x dot transform dot position dot x. We need to do that. So to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to rename this from previous position to previous hex and apply that. And then I'm going to rename this from next position to next hex. No. No, I want to apply it. Next hex. Apply. Okay. And then I'm also going to say vector 3 previous position and vector 3 next position. Okay. Now we can use these, and I'm going to go ahead and set those here. Nope, that was the wrong button. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and set these here. No, I keep hitting tab instead of enter for some reason. I have no idea why I'm doing that, but whatever. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and say previous position equals previous hex dot transform dot position. And then same thing here. Next hex equals next hex dot transform dot position. So the first thing we need to determine... What did I do wrong here? Oh, not next hex. What am I doing? Next position. There we go. Okay, so the first thing we actually need to determine here is if there is neither a... Or actually, if there is either not a next hex or previous hex, then we know we're at a road end. We should assume it goes straight out of the hex. Okay, and by that I mean, if we go into our game here, if we're at a road end right here, we should assume that the road goes this direction. If we're here, we should assume it goes this direction out of the hex to connect to the next hex. That's kind of the theory, anyway. So, with that being the case, if previous hex equals null or next hex equals null, so if there is not one, then we know this is a road end. We're going straight out of the hex to a direction to be specified soon. Okay. So the next thing is if... And for right now, we'll ignore that and come back to it. So the next thing is if previous position.x equals possibly unassigned field. Yeah. So let's go ahead and say else. Because that way, if it's not equal to null, well, it's potentially unassigned still. So let's go ahead and set this by default to vector3.0. Okay. And the next position here is the same thing, vector3.0. There. So if previous position.x equals subhexes.transform.position.x, and I'm going to go on a new line here. So if the previous x position is the same as our current x position and next position, and actually instead of doing an else if here, I'm going to do else and then in a bracket here so that we can have separate statements going on. So if previous position.x equals subhexes i.transform.position.x, if our position on the x-axis is the same as the previous x position, and next position.x is also the same, so subhexes i.transform.position.x, and I put next pose instead of next position, and I typoed position. Position. There we go. Okay, so now we know it's a straight road piece. So with that in mind, we should say that our road... Now, where are we setting this by default? I've forgotten. It's been a few days. Road equals road prefab. Okay, so road equals road prefab. This is a straight road for sure. Now then, this doesn't account for straight roads in other directions. So for example, if we go back to our game here, it accounts for roads that are straight this way. It does not account for roads that are straight this way or this way. We'll have to figure out another way to figure that out. And I think the easiest way to do that is just going to be to say, well, this is our x position right here, or rather our y position. If your y position is greater and yours is lesser, then it's straight, or vice versa. So I think that's going to be the best way to figure this out. So let's go ahead and remove this, and we will... I'm going to move this comment here into here, because if the x position of both previous and next positions are equal to our x position, then we know it's a straight road piece. And I'm going to do a new else statement here. And this is going to be if the y position of previous is greater and the y position of next is smaller, or vice versa, then it's also a straight road piece. There we go. Okay, so now we know if it's a straight road piece for sure. So we need to go ahead and craft this if statement. So if the previous position.x is not equivalent to our positions, is not both equivalent, then we don't necessarily know that it's a straight road. And I realize I'm not explaining this super well. I'm hoping that the comments are helping. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll definitely see them and answer. So if the y position of the previous road hex is greater and the y position of the next road hex is smaller, or vice versa, then we know it's a straight road piece. So this is only if the x position is not equivalent, so it's not taking into account the straight up and down pieces. So let's go ahead and say if previous position dot y is greater than subhexes I dot transform dot position dot y, and I'm going to go ahead and go to a new line here, next position dot y is less than subhexes I dot transform dot position dot y. However, we also need an or here, because we've got our or vice versa. So we need to go ahead and put a new set of parentheses in there, and then or, and I'm going to go to yet another new line here, and I'm just going to copy this entire parenthetical, and I'm just going to paste it right here, and we're just going to flip these signs. So, or vice versa. No, not a question mark. There we go. Or vice versa. Then this is a straight road for sure. Road equals road prefab. Okay. And then we can use this same sort of thing to determine the rotation. And in fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and not determine the angle over here. And I think we can go ahead and determine the angle of the road right now. So if it's straight up and down, we know that the angle should be the angle of this road right here, which is 0, 60, 0. So the rot is an Euler angle vector 3, so let's just go ahead and say rot equals new vector 3, 0, 60, 0. And that's hard-coded for now, but that's okay. So we know for a fact at this point that that's where we need to be. Now, I'm going to go ahead and remove the default assignment for right now of our road prefab, like so. And then let's just go ahead and say, let's see, where are we here? Okay, yeah. If spawn road and road is not equal to null. Okay, so if our road prefab is actually set, so road equals null, we'll go ahead and set that right up here. So it'll only instantiate the road now if we have it correct, theoretically. And I'm going to go ahead and move this here to be here. And here I'm going to comment it out. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and rerun this as is, and we should see something kind of interesting in that it only spawns the roads when it's an intersection, like so. Okay, so it's not spawning it over here at all. And I'm going to go ahead and change this back to be road prefab by default, because we do want it to spawn at certain times, but it's possible that it generated without ever having a straight road here. And I'm actually going to break these into two separate if statements, because they're going to need different rotations. So I'm going to say else if, get rid of this here. We do not need that or statement. I don't think we need the double parentheticals anymore. And then go ahead and do this. Copy this in. There we go. And the question now becomes, what direction do those need to be? Well, they need to be just like 60 degrees apart from the other road, right? So what we need to do is we need to say, if they are, and let me get into our actual visual here. If they are here, which, as you can see, this is from low to high on the Y value. So if they're from low to high on the Y value, then they need to be rotated at 120 degrees. So let's go ahead and copy this here, and this is from high to low, whereas this one is from low to high. So this needs to be at 120 degrees. And then for the other way, instead of from low to high, from high to low, then they need to be this direction here, which is going to be just a rotation of 0. Okay, so rot equals vector 3.0. We don't need a period there, and we can go ahead and spawn these roads. Is that going to work? I'm identifying some possible issues. We'll see if it crops up here. Let's see. Okay. So that's happening. That's good. I mean, that's not exactly good. Okay, let's check here. Road prefab.transform.rotation.Euler angles. And then I want to check our prefab here to see 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. Runway is not properly set up, but that's okay. We'll get to runway later. Okay, so why isn't this actually spawning straight roads? Well, it's possible there just aren't any straight roads in that particular generation. It's very, very possible indeed. Yeah, see, here it spawned a straight road. And presumably, let's find out if that straight road is in fact going correctly. So let's see here. This one is on road 0, claiming to be an intersection. If this is an intersection, why did it spawn a road on it? That's on road 2 there. And that's on road 2 as well. But this is apparently on road 0, 1, 2, and 2, which is interesting. So that would be why... Oh, the road doubles back? That's not supposed to happen. Okay, so if that's happening, then when we actually generate where the road goes, if current hex.building equals buildings.road, if it equals an intersection... Okay, so if it equals buildings.road, then we set it to an intersection, we add the current hex. If it equals buildings.intersection, then before we add the current road onto it, then I think what we need to do, actually, is we need to first check to see if it's already there. If it's already there, then we need to just continue and try again. I think. So let's see here. Possible locations. And then we populate it. Yeah. So if current hex dot intersections dot contains I, if it contains I, the current road that we're on, then it's doubling back, which shouldn't ever be possible, right? No, I guess that is theoretically possible. But if it does contain I, then current road dot add current hex is the only thing we've done so far. So current road dot remove current hex. So we take it out of the road because we don't want to double back. And then at that point, we just continue to try again. Because let's see. Current hex. Where are we setting our current hex here? Okay, yeah, we're just working on the road. So the possible locations come from current hex, which is road entries I. That's interesting. How are we going to go about doing that? Because we need to, like, back off if the current hex... Like, if the intersection is that it's on the same road as us. So I think what we actually need to do is instead of doing this, what we do is we go up here and we choose our possible location. And then we say, if current hex dot on road equals I, so just I here, if on road equals I, then what we need to do, or if current hex dot on road equals I, or current hex dot intersections dot contains I, so if we are doubling back in any way whatsoever, we need to just continue. So that will just redo the loop at that point. It'll regenerate the possible locations, it'll redo the current locations, the possible locations. The other thing that we could do is instead of doing it like this, and I think this is a better way to do it, I think the better way to do it would be to check up here, if neighbor distance is less than current distance, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and add a parenthesis here, and I'm going to say and then here, let's go ahead and say, in a parenthesis, what we need to know is we need to know that current hex dot neighbors j dot on road is not equal to I, and we also need to know that current hex dot neighbors j dot intersections, and this is kind of getting a bit long, so let me go ahead and put that down onto another line, dot contains I. So we need to know that it doesn't contain I. And then we need a closing parenthesis over here. So we only add it to the list of possible locations if it's not on the same road as us, and if the intersections don't already contain our road. That should stop that particular issue, theoretically. Okay, let's find ourselves a straight road. Not one there. Oh my. Oh, we've got argument exceptions out of range. Yeah, line 156. It must be returning 0? I wonder if we're clearing when we clean up subhexes. Yeah, this is the problem right here. We're not actually clearing off the on-roads, so subhexes I dot on-road equals -1. And then subhexes I dot intersections dot clear. Okay, now we're actually clearing all of that up. So, the question is then, for the on-road, where do we start? We start at -1. Okay, that's perfect. Let's make sure that this is working now. And I think it is. Should be, anyway. Yeah, it seems to be. It's not generating any straight roads, but that's not hugely surprising. Oh boy. No straight roads. None whatsoever. Okay, that's fine. So theoretically, it should be working-ish. Working-ish. So we're spawning roads, and we get our correct rotations, so we now know our straight roads. Now we need to do our rotations for, well, first things first. I'm going to go ahead and bracket this in, although now that I look at the time, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode we'll work on our intersection rotations a little bit before we move on. See you all then.